Hey everyone, it's Alana and welcome back to my channel. Today you'll be joining me with a March book haul. So my buying / acquiring habits seem to be getting a bit out of hand because this month for this haul I have 15 books to share with you all. I don't really know what to say other than the fact that the last few shifts at work I have been seeing things that really catch my eye, and I think, well, if I have to end up self-isolating for whatever reason, at least I will be prepared. So just as a bit of an overview, I have 2 thrillers / crime novels. I have 4 historical fictions. One of those has a bit of a fantasy element in it as well. I have a science fiction novel. I have a high fantasy novel. I also have a novel that crosses over in between of those 2 genres. And then I have a YA fantasy, a YA contemporary, an adult fiction novel, 2 graphic novels, and then an urban fantasy that everyone has been talking about crazily for the whole month. So let's just kick it off with that last one that I mentioned, and that is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And yes, I have already finished this one. It came out at the start of the month and this was the book club pick of the month. So you'll be able to find all my thoughts on this in my March wrap up when that gets posted. I don't want to say too much here because I don't want to repeat myself. So yeah, just wait for that wrap up and just know that it wasn't 100% positive vibes the whole way for me with my reading experience with this. So look forward to that video. This is an entirely new series for Sarah J. Maas set in an entirely new world where we follow the main character Bryce, who fast forward 2 years has had all of her friends killed and she gets pulled back into the mystery of their deaths and the story unfolds from there. This one gave me major Cassandra Clare vibes just because it is an urban fantasy. So you have werewolves, you have witches, you have the fae, you have angels, you have all of that, and it also gave me vibes of Sarah J. Maas's other books for reasons that you will again find in my wrap-up. Next up, I have 2 graphic novels which are continuing on from the first one which I bought, and that is the Amulet graphic novels. Here I have number 2, which is The Stonekeeper's Curse, and number 4, which is The Last Council. Yes, I need to go out and buy number 3. So it turns out I can't really count, but there you go. This graphic novel series is by Kazuo Kibuishi, and I really enjoyed the first one. I'd never read a graphic novel before, and they were a whole lot of fun. I love the art style and the colors through it as well. So I've read this one. I have yet to read this one because I need to pick up the 3rd one. In this graphic novel series, we follow a young girl who basically discovers like a family legacy that skipped over her parents and is now her responsibility. There's an amulet that is magical and it's a fun story with some dark elements, but really good for first-time graphic novel readers, I think. Next up, I have a new release by Marian Keyes, which is Grown Ups. If you've watched some of my book hauls before, you'll know that I don't always do a ton of research, and that stands here. I don't really know what this is about. I'm guessing it's about, you know, the joys and stresses that come with being a grown-up. I love Marian Keyes. She is really good for her family dynamics and relationships and that sort of thing, and anytime I feel like reading some fiction, she's usually my go-to author with it, so I'm pretty keen to get around to this one. It is very thick, so I don't know when I will get around to it, but just know that I will somewhere, somehow this year, hopefully. And then I have my only YA contemporary for this month, and that is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. I haven't heard heaps about this one yet. All I know is that I loved her first novel, Emergency Contact, and in this one I know that we follow 2 people again as their paths cross over. I think one of them might be famous and the other one might just be struggling with like credit card debt and things like that. So I'm just really keen to see how the author goes with her 2nd novel, because Emergency Contact I think was her debut, and that one just, oh, it had me feeling everything. I loved it so much. So if this one is anything like that, I'm really hoping that I enjoy it. I do have some high hopes for this, but I have seen some sort of mixed reviews on it, so I am cautiously optimistic. And then I have my only YA fantasy for the month, and that is Into the Crooked Place by Alexandra Christo. If this author's name sounds familiar to you, that is because she absolutely blew up last year with her debut novel To Kill a Kingdom, which is a Little Mermaid retelling, and I love that one because it got a bit dark and it was just amazing. So I'm super keen to pick this one up as well. I think in this one we follow, looks like 4 different characters as their paths crossover in this magical world, which just by reading the blurb, it sounds like they're 4 different crooks that have different attributes that they bring to the table. And yeah, a sinister new magic, and do they overcome that or what happens? I don't know, but I'm very keen for it. Also, I am loving this cover. It is beautiful. There was an alternate cover that I saw, which I'll pop here, as the book was nearing its release date, and I didn't really like that one. So I'm really glad that we have this one because it's just everything. It's purple, it's shiny, it looks beautiful, and it makes me even more excited to read the book, even though I know we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. But it's so pretty. Next up, we have a big old tome which I have been wanting to get for a while and which I finally did, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now, if you follow me over on my Instagram, you will know that I'm a huge Samantha Shannon fan. I love her other series, The Bone Season, which I have down here, these ones here, these big old hardbacks. And she took a break writing that series to squeeze this in, and by squeeze I mean squeeze. Like, this is a chunker of a book. She has just announced too, just before I get into this one, that The Bone Season book number 4, I think the release date is set for next year, and I'm all sorts of excited for that. So Priory has been doing the rounds on the internet. It is a high fantasy novel with queendoms and fate and all sorts of stuff. I've heard there's a wide range of characters, and it just sounds like some epic high fantasy that I think I'm gonna love. Just having a quick look at it too, it's over 800 pages long. So the reason why I hadn't bought this for so long was because the size of it did intimidate me, and usually big books don't intimidate me, but I don't know when I'm gonna have the time to fit this in, especially because I will hopefully be participating in the Owls Readathon in April, and this didn't fit onto my prompts list, so I just don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but it sounds like all sorts of things that I love. I think I just need to be in the right headspace to read it and dedicate the time to it. So when I'm feeling up to a big high fantasy bender, I will definitely be jumping on this one. Speaking of big old tomes, I have Dark Age by Pierce Brown. This is my only sci-fi novel for the month, and it is also huge. What is wrong with me? How am I going to fit all these books into my brain? My excuse for buying this one was that I've been waiting for it to come out into the smaller paperback for ages, because all my other Red Rising novels are in that smaller paperback, and it did, and I've been looking at it on the shelf at work for ages, and I finally just bit the bullet and bought it because now they all match and they all look beautiful on my shelves side by side by side. And when I'm feeling to get absolutely wrecked by an author, I'll know that I can just pick this one up and start sobbing. So this is the second book in the second trilogy of the Red Rising saga. If you haven't heard of Red Rising, it is a Roman-inspired sci-fi novel based on Mars, with a colour cast system, with red being the lowest and golds being the highest, and your main character Darrow is a red, and he's basically been told a lie his whole life, and then some shit goes down and he has to try and infiltrate the golds. It's great, read it. It's one of my all-time favourite trilogies now, and we now have the second trilogy in the saga, which is set like 10 or 20 years or some stupid amount of time after the first trilogy, and life is not all sunshine and flowers, and I really like how Pierce Brown took the story further and into this new uncertain place. So I can't tell you too much about this one because there will be spoilers, so just know that yeah, I'm super keen for this, but yeah, this one is also a thick book. It's looking like it's over 750 pages long. Cool! And then I have Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the book that I was talking about that is sort of that in-between mixture of sci-fi and fantasy. The first book in this series is called Red Sister, and this one follows the sort of assassin school young girl trope, which I really, really like, but damn, it took me a while to get into it. And then once I was into the story, I was hooked, but it took me about 50 to 100 pages. So in Red Sister, we follow a character called Nona, who is about 8 when we first start the story, I think, and she has killed people, and she finds herself in a nun convent which trains them to become killers or something. It's been a while since I've read this first one, but I've finally gotten around to buying the next one in the series. It's a trilogy, and one of my goals for the year, which you can find in my series I want to finish video, which I'll link up the top, is to try and finish off all these unfinished series on my shelves that I haven't gotten around to finish reading yet. This goes towards that. So, you know, I had to buy it. I had to buy it to go for my goals, you know? And now we're getting to the more historical novels, and the first one I have is Codename Helene by Ariel Lorhan. This one is set in World War II. We are following the true story of an Australian woman who had like 4 different code names throughout the war and who did a lot of good for the war effort. I have started reading this one and I'm on page 48. I'm sort of reading it on and off because I'm reading a few other books at the moment, and this sort of was breaking up those, which was good. So far, I like it. The main character is very ballsy, which I think now I really like, but to start off with, I was like, okay. If you want to know some of my brief thoughts on this so far, you can check out my birthday reading vlog, where I do talk about it a tiny bit at one point in that video. And yeah, I'm excited to continue on with this when I get around to it. And then I have 2 books that also count towards trying to finish off series for the year. The first one being The Lady of the Rivers, and the second one being The White Princess by Philippa Gregory. I love these covers so very much. They are stunning, and I also really love this series. So this is part of Philippa Gregory's Cousin War series, which takes place just before the Tudor Court novels, and I am slowly chipping my way through this series and loving every minute of it. I have also put this book on my Hours Readathon TBR, which you can find linked up above for you. So putting it on that Readathon TBR, I'm hoping to get to this one in April. It sounds really amazing, and so does this one. Like I said, we're following events just before the Cousins War in Tudor England, and then after/during. And yeah, I love historical fiction, and I love how Philippa Gregory writes it, and I just think that I will really like these when I get around to them. The last historical-ish novel I have is the one that is also fantasy based, and that is The Dark Lady by Akala. This is an arc that I got through work, as well as the Codename Helene one, and another one which I'll talk about next. And this comes out in April 2020, I think. And from what I've read from the back and just a little bit of the synopsis inside the cover, is that it is like Elizabethan London, I think, and there's a pickpocket who has a higher calling. I'm not sure. The back just says, a pickpocket with an exceptional gift, a prisoner of extraordinary value, an orphan haunted by dreams of the mysterious Dark Lady. So it sounds mysterious, it sounds intriguing, it sounds like there's a little bit of a fantastical element in the setting of Elizabethan London, and I'm keen. That sounds great. That sounds right up my alley. And then the last 2 books that I acquired in the month of March are both thrillers. The first one being Please See Us by Caitlin Mullen. This is also an arc that I received from work, and from what I've read on the back of the blurb, this one sounds like a psychic has to help find these women that are going missing / potentially being killed, and that blurb alone gave me sort of Leaving Time vibes by Jodi Picoult, which I ended up really liking. So I like the concept of psychics helping police officers / detectives find killers or missing people, or helping to solve mysteries. So that element sounds pretty good to me. And the last book that I have is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Now, I got this one because Kayla from Books and Lala here on BookTube recommends this left, right, and center, and I want to try and strengthen my reading recommendations in the thriller genre, so I thought that I would pick this up and see if I also liked it. From what I've heard, this one is about a lady who takes a nanny position, which seems all perfect in a smart house, but then shit starts to go down, things start to go wrong, I think she ends up in jail, and everything sort of starts to unravel, and we have to find out what happened. Yes, because there's a dead child. So this one could be challenging to read. It's also on my Hours Readathon TBR because it's a genre that I don't usually gravitate towards, and I'm excited to get to it, but I'm also a little bit scared just for some of the content that could be in this because I don't usually read scary books. books. I'm a bit of a wuss. So there you have it. Those are the 15 books that I acquired in the month of March. It was my birthday month, so we can blame the fact that there's a lot of books here on the fact that it was my birthday. At least that's what I'm telling myself anyway. I'm really hoping that next month I don't buy so many books, because I really need to start reading some of these. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below one book that you received in the month of March that you thoroughly enjoyed. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!